Cool, guys. First of all, thank you ever so much for tuning in to watch this. I'm here with my good buddy Matt, who set up this entire thing and did all the technical stuff so that I could be here to talk to you guys today. We had some technical issues earlier on. We were a little bit worried that the feed wouldn't work, but it looks like we at least have temporarily or permanently fixed this. Is it looking good, Matt?
It's looking good.
Matt says it's good. So today we're doing something just a little bit different, kind of the same as most of my seminars, where I'm going to sit here and I'm going to teach you guys a bunch of stuff, and ideally at the end of it we're going to have a Q&A, we're going to ask you questions. So don't write your questions in the chat right now, but every so often throughout the chat I'll prompt you guys to ask a question or to make sure that you're following what I'm saying, and Matt is going to read out your guys' replies. Now there is a delay, so when I ask you a question, you guys are going to hear it about 45 seconds after I've asked it. So sometimes there might be like a little bit of a delay in terms of me responding, but don't worry about that. Me and Matt should be able to handle that. Today we're doing something very unique. I don't know, maybe it's because it's the holidays, or maybe it's because I see so many people that like just not getting results and I'm getting upset about it. And this happens to me about this time every year. Every year I usually redefine what my content is and what I'm teaching for the next year, come around November, December kind of time, because it's like a year of teaching the same thing, and I'm like, man, I need to hit this better. I need to come up with a way to make this more actionable. And I'll tell you the thing that annoys me the most about dating advice and dating content. It's like magazines, like even online magazines like AskMen.com or Cosmopolitan for girls. Like I hate they do these like really dumb articles that are supposed to be really practical, but are actually not practical. So it'd be like, 5 ways to get the person of your dreams. And then it's like, way number 1, lower your standards, meet more people and see what you want. And then it's like, way number 2, go out more. And it's like, it's really dumb stuff that doesn't have any practical, actual things that you can take away from it. So what we're doing today is going to be a little different, is I'm creating one of those articles exactly for you. So we're going to call this 7 ways to instantly be more attractive. And here we have the generic titles that you would typically expect to see at the top of any of these dumb articles that you read online. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these specifically and in detail. And I'm going to explain exactly what you can do to literally boost yourself and become more attractive within 24 hours. You can go away and do each of these things. You could literally start doing them today, and you could see an impact on your dating life tomorrow. That's how fast this stuff works. It's things that are very quick, very actionable, but I'm not just going to be like, just model someone you like. We're going to talk about actually how you do it. Give you some actionable steps for you to go away and take, and so that way we turn this into a practical set of exercises to make you more attractive within 24 hours. Now, if that sounds good, if that sounds like the kind of thing that you want to hear about and you want to listen to, great. Let me know in the chat. If you think this is disgusting and that you hate it and you don't want anything to, I don't care about being more attractive. I just want girls to come and suck my dick whether I'm attractive or not. If you're thinking that way, then you are not the kind of person that I want to teach. But I would be curious to see if there are anybody who's got like negative views and doesn't want to learn anything like this. So if you're brave enough and you think that this is complete bullshit and this is not something you would ever want to learn, do me a favor and tell me that this isn't something you want to learn and why in the chat below. However, for those of you guys that do want to know about it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start talking to you about the best ways to go through it. Matt, are you staying here or are you going? You gave me a thing that said I was going to leave and then you stayed.
I'm going to stay.
You're going to stay. All right, I wasn't sure. I was like mentally waiting for you to leave the room, and then I was like, Matt's not leaving. What's going on? All right, good. Okay, so that means the technical stuff's good. All right, so everything that I'm going to teach you today are things that you can put into practice straight away. So we're going to talk about actual actionable steps. And I find that, especially with dating and anything to do with psychology, people often give advice, but it's all like big picture stuff that doesn't tend to be able to be practiced. Like, for example, get pre-selection. Pre-selection works. Okay, great. Pre-selection makes me more attractive. But then people are like, well, how do I get more girls? You're like, well, it's easy to get more girls. Just invite some girls to go out. Well, what if you don't know any? Well, then that's easy. You just join a club and meet some girls. So the answers are just a little bit too vague, and they don't really give people those specifics. So what I really want to do is I want to go through the specifics of what you need to do for each of these things to actually put them into practice and go out there and make these things work for you. I think the delay's probably kicked in at about this point. Are we getting replies from people saying...
Oh yeah, they love this, man. They want to hear it.
They want to hear it. Yeah. All right, that's good.
Hell yeah.
Is anyone like, no, fuck this is bullshit?
Not a single person.
Not one. All right, that's good. That's good. That's a good sign. Okay, good. That means I'm on the right track. Because I never know, right? I say this every week, but I never know what you guys really want. I guess and I think that people might want something, but it's that kind of feedback that lets me know, okay, this is the right kind of thing to do. So, and again, it was just a random idea that I had last week. I was like, oh, that would be a really cool, fun thing to do. So number one, we're going to go with modeling somebody. Now, this is a great one. what is modeling? Why do we model someone? Modeling someone basically means you pick somebody that you are aware of that exists. It doesn't have to be someone you know, but somebody that you know exists, and you basically analyze a person who you think is attractive and is getting girls and that women are attracted to, and then you model yourself after that person. You attempt to mirror that person and become that person. Now, there's different ways of modeling people. First of all, I'm going to tell you what I did, and then I'm going to tell you of a time that I helped one of my students, and then we're going to talk about a way that you can work out what you can do. What I did was very simple. I looked at my personality type, and I thought, without changing my personality type too much, who am I closest to? And then I thought, what is like the goal? Where do I want to be? So I realized that the goal that I want to be, the person, if I had to pick one person who's good with women, I want to be James Bond. And I mean, literally James Bond. I want to be able to walk up to women. I want to have that confident, debonair, suave moves where I can walk up to any woman and I can say hi, how are you doing? And the girl's like, oh my God, and they melt just on those words. I want to be that guy. But James Bond didn't really work for me. I'll tell you why James Bond didn't work for me. James Bond works in a one-on-one scenario. If James Bond goes into a big venue with lots of people, it really works when he talks to a person. And he's really good with that person. But I realized I didn't really want that because I wanted pre-selection. And James Bond doesn't really have pre-selection. It's always just hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. And I want to be able to focus on having a great big social life with lots of women because I knew that that made me even more attractive, basically to beat James Bond. So I knew I needed something that was like a high energy kind of personality that was very relatable. So for those of you that are American and have no idea who this is, you should Google it. But the other character I picked was Doctor Who. Specifically, the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, if you want to Google it and watch it. And if you ever want to see, who is Adam, it's very easy. Just bring up a video of Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor with David Tennant, and James Bond, specifically probably the Pierce Brosnan James Bond, and you basically compare the two of them, you get me. I am James Bond with Doctor Who. And this isn't an accident, I did this on purpose. I literally sat down before I went out learning how to meet chicks, and I was like, I'm going to model myself. I'm going to create almost like you could do it on Pinterest, or at the time I just wrote it down with the qualities that I felt they both had. And I just created all the qualities that I felt both of the characters had. And then what I did was I wrote down what they would do in any given situation. Now, a lot of people can get this wrong, right? Because Doctor Who time travels and James Bond fights crime. So people make the mistake of thinking, I want to be, not crime, but international espionage. So people make the mistake of being like, I want to be like James Bond and Doctor Who, so I need to get a time machine and I need to sign up with the CIA or the FBI or MI5 or whatever it is. And it's like, no, that's the opposite. That's their occupation. That's not what you're trying to copy. You want to copy their mannerisms, their personality, the way they respond. So what I did was I wrote down very typical things that people would say to me and how I would respond. So for example, I knew that as Doctor Who, as David Tennant, when I walk into a party, I would have to go around and meet people first. So one of the first things I do is when I go to a new venue, I'm like, hi, nice to meet you, Adam. And I've got this high, big, friendly, hey, great, nice to meet you. Big smiles, big friendly, something James Bond would never do, but Doctor Who would do all the time. And then, if I ever got a girl alone, I know that's the time when I change it. So I'm not like, oh my God, yeah, you're so beautiful. Instead it shifts, and I'm like, wow, you're probably the most beautiful girl out of this entire venue. So I switch, and I switch on purpose because I modeled myself on two people. There's no accident in how this works. So what you do is you make a list of the most common scenarios that you find yourself and how you're going to act in those situations. So to start off with, you just make a list of all the things that you typically do. So it's going to be like ordering a Starbucks, going to work, at lunch on a work day, at lunch on a not work day, talking with my family, talking with my girlfriend, going for the first kiss. Just make a list of everything you can think of. This is going to be huge, right? You're going to have 30 or 40 points. Don't go too crazy, but when you get to 30 or 40, stop it. But you really want to try and get up to anywhere from 10 to 30 points. And once you've got up to that point, you've got them all listed, just write the name of the celebrity or personality, I'm going to tell you how to pick that person in a second, next to it, so you know the kind of idea for how they would respond. And then watch movies, watch TV shows, and see how they respond in that scenario and write it down. You ever see people go, wow, that person's really sharp, they're really quick, they really think on their feet, they can't have quick answers. I realized I am not quick. A lot of people think I'm quick, they're like, oh my God, Adam's got an answer for everything. I'm not actually quick, I'm rehearsed. I know in any given situation, I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to tell you a scenario that happened literally yesterday where I was bullied and the response that I gave, that made the person just completely back away, and I didn't even recognize what I was doing. So here's what happened. Last night, it was one of my girlfriend's birthdays, and I bought a brand new suit. I brought a tailored suit, and I went to pick it up. And I was in a rush. I only had like 5 minutes to grab it because we were already on the way to the venue, and they'd finished it late. And so I walk into the venue, and for whatever reason, my suit was all prepared, and they got it ready, and I got changed. But there's only one good mirror in this tailoring place, right? There's one mirror. It's got like the 3 mirrors. You've probably seen it. James Bond gets his suit tailored. By the way, why am I getting this tailored suit? Because I modeled myself on James Bond. So it's no coincidence. I'm like, what would James Bond do if James Bond went to a party? So in terms of preparation for the party, Doctor Who is just going to wear the same shit that he always wears. And I'm like, no, that's not cool. I don't want to be that guy. James Bond is going to wear the right thing for the right occasion. So I know that when I'm going to a new party, it's what would James Bond do. So again, showing you how I model it. So I turn up at this venue, and there's this guy standing in front of the mirror with his friend and one of the guys that runs the place. And the guy is huge. He's like big meathead type guy, and he's got a skinhead, and he's from like New Jersey or New York or something. And they're talking and being really aggressive. And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you, like I don't wanna wear some suit that I'm not comfortable in. You understand? And he's like speaking like that, but he's in front of the only mirror. He's not looking in the mirror. He's just standing there. So I walk up to him, polite as you can. I'm in a rush, and I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, would you mind moving out of the way so I can look at myself in the mirror? And he goes, can't you see he's busy here? Can't you see we're doing something right now? You can't see that? And he just gets aggressive and in my face. Now this guy's like twice the size of me. He's like obviously very aggressive and very happy. I don't want to deal with him. But I'm not thinking, what do I say? How do I deal with it? I just instantly respond, yeah, right. Why? Why did those words come out of my mouth? They weren't pre-programmed. They weren't thought out. I didn't think, okay, if somebody says this, I'm going to say this. It's because when I instantly get aggression or confrontation, one of my default answers is, yeah, right. The other one is, say that again? These two phrases are just pre-programmed. I don't necessarily select one or the other. I just have them built in. So what happened is this big guy gets all aggressive with me, and I've responded with sarcasm. Not because I listened to anything he said, but just because my brain has acknowledged that this guy is giving me aggression, and so my brain just instantly responds with, yeah, right. So now he's looking at me, this guy who's smaller than him in every single way, who's instantly responded with sarcasm. He moves out of the way. He can't think quick enough to handle it. Because I wasn't thinking. I was just responding because I modeled a very specific response. Now, I didn't get that response from James Bond and Doctor Who. I got that response from some friends of mine that work in a gang in London. And so these guys, whenever they deal with aggressive situations, they always respond with sarcasm and humor. There is nothing better than watch, and I've seen this. I've seen like very aggressive guys come up to my friends who are in a gang, and they're like swearing at them, like they're going to kill them or whatever, and threatening them. And you would expect the gang to like rise up and fight back. But these guys are so hardcore, they just laugh. And it's the funniest thing when you see some guy go up and go, you gotta move out my way. And my friends are just like, ah, ha, 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 ha. And they just point and laugh, like crazy style. And the guy who's being aggressive doesn't know what to do. It's like, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? And they just point and laugh, and in the end, the guy backs off. So I've got that as a pre-built response. So I'm not just taking the two people that I've said, okay, only what these two do. I'm also looking at other situations that are successful and thinking, okay, I'm going to model that. So this guy moves out of the way. I get to look in the mirror. I fix my tie. It looks good. And I walk out of the store. Point being, I didn't think about my response. I used a standard response that I modeled previously from somebody else. So now I'm going to talk about a student of mine who came to me with a specific problem. And his problem was he couldn't work out who he should model. And I'm going to describe the guy to you. He's about 5'2", Indian, and very, very skinny. No muscle tone whatsoever. He's like the skinniest, tiniest little guy ever. And he turns up and he's wearing a baggy t-shirt that's too big for him, and he's got jeans that are too big for him. He just doesn't look that great. And so he comes up to me and he's like, hey Adam, I'm really struggling with women. I don't know what to do. And I was like, right, because you're a tiny little Indian guy in clothes that don't fit you. And he goes, right, that's what women think. I'm like, right, they think that because that's how you present yourself. You present yourself like a tiny little Indian guy in baggy clothes that don't fit you. So everyone assumes you're a tiny little Indian guy because you give them that. When people saw me last night, they look at me and they think, holy shit, this guy's James Bond. Or holy shit, this guy knows what he's on about. Holy shit, this guy is imposing because I dress the part. I look the part. So it's the same with you. If you want to make sure you look good, then you need to model someone who looks good and has a presence. So when people see that person, they're like, wow, this person's a somebody. So with this little Indian guy, I said to him, I was like, you got two ways to go. I was like, it's up to you which way you want to model. You can either model a yoga teacher, At which point he can focus on mysticism and yoga and being spiritual and being higher thinking. Now that's attractive. There's a lot of women that wish they could sleep with their yoga teacher. Because at this point, you're no longer a short little Indian guy in baggy t-shirts. You are a yoga instructor. And this guy's like, you know what? I'm actually a qualified yoga instructor. I'm like, there you go. You're already qualified. You don't even have to go through the training. You're already a yoga instructor. You just need to dress like it all the time. Or the other side is, you can become a drug dealer. And he's like, wait, you want me to be a drug dealer? I'm like, no, it's not about your occupation, but you need to present yourself that way. You need to come across like a gangster. You need to come across like you wear sharp suits, you look tailored, and you've got this like aggression about you that makes everyone think, holy crap, who is this guy? Because again, when they meet you, they're not thinking, oh my God, this is a skinny little Indian guy in a big t-shirt. They're thinking, wow, this guy looks sharp and he's dangerous but powerful. And you can have these things without being somebody who is actually doing any of those things, right? Same thing, I can act like James Bond without signing up to becoming an international spy. You can come across like somebody who's imposing and powerful and potentially a drug dealer without actually being a drug dealer. One of my instructors, actually, he became a very good instructor. There's actually a video of him online that people watch. They love this guy. But he was an Asian guy when he first came to me. He came across like a network tech guy because that's what he did. By the time he stopped working for me, he was accused of being a drug dealer in almost every single venue he went to because he had a shaved mohawk, he had like purple in his hair, he had like really cool clothes, he worked out and had like a ripped body, and every girl would just assume, they would go to him, call the time, and be like, hey, where can I get some drugs? Like they would constantly be asking for him for a hookup, and he was just like, dude, this is so funny because he was still a network administrator, he still did tech, he just looked like the cool guy at the party. And so modeling somebody is a very key element. So how can you do this? Well, it's very simple. You go through and you make the list of how you want to behave, of all the typical things that you have to deal with, and then you write the name of the celebrity next to it that you think you want to copy in terms of their response. And you don't want to have like 10 different celebrities, that's going to be terrible. You really want to be thinking about maybe 2 maximum, maybe 1 ideally. And an easy way to do this is just to look at celebrities, and by celebrities, you can also have like fictional characters, they don't have to be real. So you can be like, okay, Gandalf, but then you got to think, is Gandalf attractive? And you're like, if Gandalf isn't attractive, he's probably not a good person to put on the list. So go through and look at people who are attractive, who women are like, yes, that person. An example is George Clooney, right? If you think about George Clooney, you think, okay, yeah, there's a lot of women that want him. Well, what does he act like? Well, he always acts calm. He always acts very intense. When he gets angry, if you've ever seen like the way that George Clooney gets angry, he doesn't outburst wild. He has this controlled anger. So he does this sort of like, say that again? Sorry, what? Yeah, just repeat yourself. So he's got this kind of like calm and controlled, but inquisitive kind of response to anger. So you can go through and you can write down all these qualities of how do you think George Clooney would respond, or how do you think Brad Pitt would respond. Brad Pitt's very unlikely to lose his cool, but you might say, you know what, I specifically want to model myself after the Brad Pitt in Inglourious Basterds, and I want to take on that kind of big puffed up chest kind of guy. Have a look, model someone, write down their name, and then go through and do it. Now, once you've done that, we can move on to the next phase. So we know you're attractive. We know you've already boosted your attractiveness just by copying somebody else because they are attractive. So we can look at them and say, okay, well, this person would be deemed attractive, so now we can be that. You go on to the second point, style, and we start to work out where our image comes from. And it comes from the same person. So however they model themselves physically and based on clothing, you can do the same thing. Fascinatingly, I was watching this meme thing online, and I think it's Arnold from Hey Arnold. The actor that voices him, or at least the original one, is apparently really, really good looking. And there was like a bunch of people online that were commenting on this, and I'm like, this guy's like stunning. So I went over and I had a look at this guy. And you know what I saw? I saw a very hairy man with a lot of hair. Like literally, the only part of this guy's face you can see is like this bit. This is all a huge beard down to here, and this is all long hair. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, I wish guys could see that this is a man that women are saying is stunning, and the reality is it's a man that combs his hair. Because that's all it is. He's just a big, hairy person, but the hair is groomed, it's oiled, it's smooth. Like this is a guy that spends a lot of money going to get his hair done, and he takes care over his appearance. And I wish men realized that's what it takes to be good looking. Like if you want to be good looking, you don't have to be good looking, you just have to look good. You have to work with what you've got, groom what you've got, make it look as good as you possibly can, and that's the key to looking good. Every single time in my life when people have complimented me and are like, wow, you look great, it's just because I started looking after myself. I just put in the energy that I needed to make myself myself physically more attractive, and by literally just grooming. So you can be attractive, and this is why it's good to model someone who is a celebrity, because if you just look at how they dress on the red carpet, then you know how you should be dressing. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's just say you're like, okay, I want to be just like Han Solo. And you're like, okay, I'm going to model myself like Han Solo, I'm going to respond like Han Solo, great. But you probably don't want to dress like Han Solo in everyday life because, you know, Han Solo is a smuggler from the future in a distant galaxy far, far, far away. Like, not the best choice of clothing to attract women now. So instead, what you do is you go, okay, I'm going to act like Han Solo, but I'm going to dress like Harrison Ford on the red carpet. And that's the key. So you just think, how does this person dress on the red carpet? That's how I'm going to dress. Which, yes, you're going to say to me, wow, it's almost like every single one of them is wearing like a button-up and a suit. Yes, almost every single one of them is. If you want to get a deviation from that, look at how they dress in their best interviews, the ones where they really, you know, like when they go on Jimmy Kimmel or something. You can dress like that. And that's like your casual wear. So, for example, you'll almost always see me either dressed up or in some very nice, relaxed casual wear because I'm styling myself after James Bond and Doctor Who. So that's literally how I go through it, and it's exactly how you can go through it. So by copying the style, it's a very easy thing to do. Now, there's some other ways that you can copy style very cheaply and very effectively. For example, did you know that places like Hugo Boss, like Armani, they cost a lot of money to go and get outfit and clothes there, but the clothes look really good. However, lower-end fashion labels, lower-end fashions like Topshop, Topman, H&M, all of their styles are usually stolen from the higher-end stores. So, for example, Zara and Hugo Boss will often have very similar clothing. So what I tell people to do is go to a high-end store where you're not going to spend lots of money and get somebody to try on an entire outfit for you. Get them to style you. Those staff are paid so much money, they know what looks good. Don't tell them what you want. They're going to be like, what do you want? Say, I don't know. I don't know what I want. I have no idea. Please, can you pick for me? Let them pick for you because they're paid lots of money. Get them to style you out and then take a picture of it and say you want to send it to somebody to see if you like it to get a second opinion. They're going to say yes, you take a picture, and then say, okay, you haven't heard back yet, so you're going to take the clothes off, you're going to go walk around, you might come back later on. And then you leave. Then go somewhere cheaper, take the picture, show it to the staff and say, could you get me this? And let them copy it for you. And they'll go through their store in H&M or Zara or wherever it is, and they will find the closest thing they can. You've now got a free styling session from somebody who's paid thousands and thousands of dollars, and you've got it duplicated for just the price of the clothing at the cheapest store. It's a very easy way to get cheaper style. You can do the same thing with haircuts. I strongly suggest that every single person watching this goes to a higher-end hair designer, like an actual hair designer. Go somewhere that charges like $200 or $300 to get your hair done. Contact them. Book an appointment, go in and get your hair done. Get them to do your beard, your hair, everything. Say, I'd like you to style it. I want you to cut it. Do whatever you want. Make it however you want. And they're going to say, right, do you want it cut? And you go, whatever you want. You pick, but make me look cool. Make me look stylish. Make me look attractive. And then once it's done, make them take a picture from the front and both sides and the back. From that point on, you can go to a $5 snappy cuts, you know, like a high street mall haircut place, and just show them the pictures and say this. Because now they know how to do it on your head. The problem is if you go to one of the cheaper ones and you just take a picture of a celebrity, they're not going to be able to make it work because they don't know how to conform it to your head because your hair is not the same. You know, like as much as you might say, wow, you know, I really want the same hair as the guy from the Hey Arnold thing. You might say, okay, this is the hair that I really want. But if your hair doesn't work that way, they can't do it. So instead, because it's your actual head, they know how to comb it. They know how to copy it. For example, I've got 2 cowslicks and I've got a double crown. That means it's very hard to duplicate most other people's haircuts. So what happens is when I get a hairstyle that I like, I take multiple pictures of it, and then every time I go back to the hairdresser, I just say, hey, copy this. And it doesn't matter what hairdresser I go to, where I go, they can all copy the same thing, and they don't have to go based on my description. They can see how it actually should look. Point number 3, actually I'm going to grab some water. Are you guys following me so far? I just want to find out if people, what they think. So those of you guys that are watching this right now, let me know. Let me know if this makes sense. Let me know if these are practical steps that you can actually see yourself doing. Or let me know if you're not following me and you're kind of confused, or if you're like, this is like too much hard work, I don't really want to do it. Let me know, I'm going to drink some water, and then Matt can tell what everyone's saying.
There's a 45-second delay, but
Yeah.
for the most part, everyone seems to be following along. The comments are great. They're very, very happy.
Awesome. All right, good. Okay, I'm glad. As they start coming in, I'll throw back to you in a second and we'll find out.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, good.
This is awesome.
Good. Okay, yeah, so these, like I said, these are practical elements, just things you can do in the next 24 hours to become more attractive. All right, so let's keep going. What else do we got here? being social. All right, so this is a huge one. And I don't mean like just go out and hang out with people. What I mean is when you're out, actually be social. Actually take the time to go and talk to other people and be interactive. So I'm going to tell you a story again that detracts a little bit, but trust me, it's going somewhere. I play Dungeons & Dragons. I love Dungeons & Dragons. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since I was like 9 years old. It's like my favorite game. I spend a lot of time doing it. And I have one character that I love more than anything. But this character is kind of unique in that you have to be social at the table to play. And so a few weeks ago, I went to a public game. Public game isn't the same as a private game. You're not just playing with some friends in your house. Oh, excuse me. You're playing with complete strangers. And when you're playing with complete strangers, you've got all the typical issues that come along with meeting new people. Like, I don't know anybody, I've got to talk to them. And the problem is my favorite Dungeons & Dragons character, he kind of has to be a leader and he kind of has to be a big mouth. And if I don't do these two things, the character kind of sucks because he can't really do anything unless he's talking and being a big mouth and telling everyone what to do. That's when you really get the fun out of the character. And I'd had a very busy day, I was very tired, I sat down at the table and I realized I didn't want to be social. Like, I just didn't want to be. And I recognized that I would have to engage that dating coach side of me if I wanted to be able to make the game work. And so what I did was for the first 5 minutes of the game, I forced myself to be social. And all I did was I made a point to learn everybody's name at the table, learn who they are and what they did. And at the end, by the time I'd finished, I was suddenly social. So I found the key to being social is to do one thing. And that one thing is be curious. So if I had to change this, it wouldn't say be social. It would actually say this. It would say be curious. I hope I spelled that right. It would be curious. And the reason I say be curious is because if you go around and you identify what everybody is trying to achieve or who they are, and I don't mean in D&D now, I mean in real life. If you find out like what achievements they want to achieve in life, where they want to go, what they want to make happen, then you will find it easier to talk to people and they will have opened up with you. And by the time you've done that little exercise, it will make you more social. So for example, Matt's great. Matt works with us. He does a great job. But something I know about Matt is that Matt has aspirations to do music of some kind, like whether it's in a band or whether it's a song. Am I right here, Matt? Yeah, right? So I know this about Matt, so I know what his achievements are and his goals. And it makes it significantly easier for me to interact with somebody if I know what they're trying to achieve in life because I know the kind of topics they want to talk about. So I know that given any opportunity, if Matt was bored at home, that I could basically do one thing with Matt, and that's bust out Matt's guitar and sit down and have like a bit of a jam session. And I know that Matt would always enjoy that. And we did that, last week we were singing upstairs and we were all sitting and me, Brooke and Matt were all sitting around and singing and playing music and it was fun. And it's something that I know that Matt's going to appreciate. So being social is about encouraging others to enjoy the interaction and then that makes it easier for you to enjoy it. So it's kind of backwards because a lot of people are like, well, if I'm not in the mood, I can't be social. And it's like, well, no, actually it's the other way around. If you act social, you will get in the mood every single time. So your purpose whenever you go somewhere new is just to like, okay, I'm going to meet 5 or 10 people straight away. And when I meet those people, I'm going to find out what they're trying to achieve in life. I'm going to find out the kind of things that they enjoy doing, maybe find out what they do for a living. I'm going to do it as quick as possible. And by the time you've done that 5 or 10 times, you're not trying to pick up any of them, right? So they don't need to be hot. They don't need to be famous. They don't need to be anything special. They just be regular people in a bar. And by learning these things about them, you're going to wake up that social part of your brain, and it's going to make it easier for you to be out there and be talking to more people. And you can gain the benefits of social proof and pre-selection just because you're talking to people. Next one is huge. Like, this is such a big one. And the funny thing is, I think people know this, and yet they don't ever do it. There's a bunch of stuff in the news recently of comedians stealing other people's work and releasing it as their own. Now, my mum, years ago, used to be on the club circuit in London, and she would travel to different clubs and as a dancer. And as part of that traveling around, she met a lot of comedians. And she said it was insane how many comedians stole other comedians' jokes. Now, with the internet, it's a lot easier for people to find out that somebody's stolen a joke because they hear it again. But back in the day, stealing jokes was literally how it happened. People would just constantly steal other people's jokes. And it still happens today, like I said, but a little bit less. Now, because you're not trying to be a comedian, I'm assuming most of you aren't trying to be a comedian anyway, it's totally acceptable for you to just watch a bunch of stand-up comedy, memorize some jokes. By memorize, I mean write them down. I used to watch stand-up comedy with a notepad and pen and write down the bullet points to the best jokes and memorize them. The reason being, I could then go out in a bar, I could be hanging out with a whole bunch of people, and I can repeat the jokes I'd heard comedians say, and everyone would laugh. Why? Because these are professional jokes taught by professional comedians. And every so often someone would be like, oh, I've heard that one before. And I'd be like, yeah, I got it from some TV show that I watched. But it's fine because you're not a comedian. You don't have to pretend like you made it up. You don't pretend it's your life. You just go, oh my God, I heard this funny thing the other day. You guys got to hear this. Boom, say the joke. Or go, oh my gosh, I got this joke. I got to tell you guys. Boom, say the joke. Oxytocin is one of the biggest triggers of attraction. And oxytocin is triggered by people laughing. If you make people laugh, you become more attractive. If you're not fun to be around, people won't want to be around you. I literally have a student who is so depressing that working with him is like pulling teeth. Like, it's the worst thing in the world. And I say to him every single time we start working together, I'm like, hey dude, just so you know, your goal today is to be happy. If you get too depressive, if you start feeling down too much, then we're just going to put a pause on this. You're going to go away, separate from it. We're going to come back together, because the depression that you're having, that you're exposing to other people, is just making them not want to hang around you. And as long as you've got that, it's going to affect you. And he's like, yeah, but this is who I am. This is how it is. I'm like, right. And that's why you see a therapist to deal with that. And that's the right thing to do. You should definitely work on fixing those situations. But you can't thrust your depression on other people. When you're meeting new people, the goal is to do the opposite of that. They've got to enjoy being with you. If someone's got a choice of hanging out with two people, one person who's depressed and one person who isn't depressed, they're going to pick the person who isn't depressed every time. It sucks that you suffer depression. It's horrible. And if you want other people to understand that they have to handle the fact that you've got it, you also need to understand that you have to handle the fact that they don't have it. And that's part of your job. You can't use depression as an excuse not to help out the other person. They need to be having fun. And when you first meet people, that's the most important thing. They need to see that you are capable of not being depressed when you first meet them. So by all means, accept the fact you have depression. By all means, don't hide it. By all means, deal with it. But when you meet new people, the very first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that they are enjoying being with you, they're having fun being with you. And so a big part of that is to make sure that you make people laugh. And so an easy way to do that is watch and memorize comedy. Now, some people think, I am funny. I don't need comedy. Like, I'm already funny. Listen, if people don't laugh when you're being funny, then you're not funny. And I mean, people should be laughing all the time. One of the funniest guys I know, he passed away last year, unfortunately, which is incredibly sad. He's one of the funniest guys I know. People would be in hysterics around him, like all the time. People were constantly laughing. This was a funny guy, but he was never insulting, never negative, never put people down. He just said really, really funny things all the time. People laugh around me, and I'm not that funny. But people laugh around me because I say a couple of funny things, and people get caught up in the experience, and then people keep laughing. So I'm aware of this, but that's okay. I also have no problem in stealing good things from other people. But if your idea of humor is putting somebody down, making somebody feel bad, then they're not laughing. And even if you think you're funny, that doesn't really cut it. So, watch and memorize good comedy routines that don't insult the people that you're with, or ideally other people, and then you're going to find that's where you're going to get some of the best responses from people. Next up, this should probably be like number one. This is probably the biggest thing that you could learn and do. And it's to learn and talk about sex. Now, if this was a generic online article, it would be learn and talk about sex. People love it when you talk about sex, and it makes it seem like your experience, the end. And that's why I hate those kind of articles. So instead, we're going to talk specifically about what I mean by learn and talk about sex. What I mean is, you should get a book called Sperm Wars, and you should read it. And you should understand exactly why we have sex and how it works. Sperm Wars is a great book, and it will teach you a hell of a lot about the body system and why the body is designed to do what it does and why we react and act the way that we do. Next up, learn about squirting. Like, I don't just mean watch some porn on squirting. I mean actually learn about what it is to give a woman that kind of orgasm and to give her that experience. Next up, learn about a yoni massage. It's a type of tantric sex that is all focused on giving the female an incredible mind-blowing orgasm. Learn about orgasms, about the female orgasm, about the different types. Learn female anatomy. Go online, read and Google this shit. Learn about all of the different elements of how women have sex, why they have sex. Once you've learned that, talk about it. Don't just talk about it to a girl that you're trying to have sex with. Talk about it with everyone. Get comfortable talking about sex. In my household, we talk about sex all the time. I literally, Matt, tell me if I'm lying. What did I talk to you about first thing this morning when I came down when we were setting up?
About the amazing sex.
About the amazing sex I had last night, right? Literally. It's the very first thing. In our household, talking about sex is just standard. Like, you just totally do it. We all talk about sex. There may or may not have been videos that are shared internally within the house about people having sex. Like, it's just how we are. We just are very comfortable about it and we talk about it. That's why you want to talk about sex. A lot of PUAs, a lot of dating coaches, they're like, talk to a girl about sex to turn her on. I'm one of them. It's a great thing to do. But you should also get good at talking about sex all the time, always talk about sex. By being somebody who is comfortable talking about sex, you are somebody that is comfortable having sex, and people are comfortable having sex with you. Plus, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to talk to a girl that you're interested in about sex. Cool, how are we with everybody? Is everyone with me so far? Let's move on to the final couple of points.
They're really enjoying this.
Good, all right, cool. Now's the time, if you've got questions, don't write them in the chat yet, but definitely start maybe writing them and clipping them to a noteboard or something, like like on a notepad or something, or on the computer, so you can just cut and paste the questions. When we get to questions, it's going to be first come, first served. So wait until I say, okay, go, start putting your questions, and when I say that, then you can start putting them up. From that point on, once I say it, Matt, then we'll do the questions in order, and we'll keep going until I run out of time. So we'll probably do like 5 questions or something like that. Okay, next up, practice with purpose. So as you guys know, one of the main reasons that we do these videos is to find people to come and work with us privately. Okay, so we release these videos specifically to try and track down students that we can actually help. Mostly because we're kind of tired of people going online and being like, this doesn't work for me. And we're like, have you ever trained with anyone? And they're like, no. And we're like, well, that's probably why it is. Like, have you noticed that the guys that get really, really good at this, like Neil Strauss just released his new book, The Truth, and Neil Strauss learned from mystery by actually going to train with somebody. And you got like the guy that created all of Real Social Dynamics, he learned that specifically by training under Neil Strauss and mystery. Like I myself learned under a guy from Denmark. Like all of the best dating coaches in the world learned from somebody else. I got a string of coaches that worked under me. Joshua, back in the day, came and attended one of my boot camps, like when he first was learning how to do this stuff. So there are a lot of different people that have learned, and the only way they've learned is by training with somebody. And so we do this stuff to find people that want to come and train with us and ask questions live and get dedicated feedback and maybe come and attend one of our experiences with us. And that's one of the main reasons we do it. And the reason for that is this, to practice with purpose. Because otherwise what happens is, like, how many times have you, like, be honest, let's get some feedback on this. How many times have you sat down and watched a seminar with me or anyone else and thought to yourself, I'm totally going to do that? Maybe for 24 hours you started putting it into practice, and then you just didn't. Then it kind of like just stopped, and you stopped doing it. And then maybe later on, you were like, oh my God, I remember that thing that I used to do. But you kind of forgot about it and haven't done it since. If that's you, let me know. Like, I want to see how many of you have had that experience where you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to do this. And then you just don't do it, and then you don't get the results of it. That's why we have our live training programs. Our live training programs, especially the Interpersonal Attraction Institute, is literally an institute of people where we focus on making people practice with purpose, practice with a specific goal in mind in order to achieve a result. So, at the end of this video, if you want to practice with purpose, a very easy thing for you to do is to go through each of these points and make sure that you've got a dedicated action step to achieve. So, if I was going to create point number 1, and I'll go through this at the end, I'll give you like a rundown, but just to give you an example, if I was going to go through point number 1, then I'd say, okay, I am going to, at the end of this, identify 1 or 2 people that I'd like to model myself after. Boom, that's action step 1. And then, when I finish this, I'm going to say, okay, I now know that this is the time for me to go and do that, and I'm going to make it happen. One of the things that I get all of my students to do is to find a slot in the week or in the day when you're going to do a specific activity. So for example, I know every Tuesday night I take Jane on a date. I know that every Thursday night I take Brooke on a date. Why do I know this? Because I've got a dedicated time slot for it. I know exactly when it happens and why it happens. You can do the same thing with your practicing. That's what I mean by practice with purpose. So you could say, okay, Wednesday lunchtimes is the day that I'm going to go to Starbucks, I'm going to sit there for an hour, and I'm not going to drink my drink without talking to at least 2 girls. It now has a purpose. I'm going to go there, I'm going to order a drink, and if I don't want my drink to be too cold, I'll go talk to 2 girls before I have my drink. So I can talk to 2 girls at the same time, I can talk to 1 girl, and then another girl, but I need to be talking to at least 2 girls before I have my first sip of my drink. Practice with purpose. So don't just say, I'm going to do this, say I'm going to do this to achieve X. There is a reason for me doing it. And I'll go back through here and I'll give you a practice with purpose tip for every single one of these points. Finally, this one's huge. Take good pictures. I'll tell you how many times I see guys like on Facebook or online, they're like the worst profile pictures, like really bad pictures. Let me sum it up for you. You can't take a good picture of yourself. Selfies, you're not good at them. You're just not. If you want to get a good picture, you want to get a professional photographer to take a picture of you. Matt, what happened when you had a professional photographer take your pictures?
I was getting Tinder dates every week.
How much, like, so Matt, before he came to work with me, didn't have professional pictures taken. And as part of his employment here, I got him pro pictures done completely for free, right? Didn't cost you a penny. How much of an increase did you see in Tinder when you switched to the new pictures?
The attraction, I didn't have to say nearly as much. They were just automatically attracted to me.
The girls were automatically attracted to him. Did you hear that? Look, imagine if this seminar said, one thing you could do within 24 hours to get women to be automatically attracted to you, because they're the words that Matt just said. It's just this one point. The rest of this is like a bonus. Just that. Take good pictures. What's a good picture? A good picture is done by a professional photographer, not in a studio. Studio pictures are terrible. Don't get studio pictures done. They're no good. A good picture should be done by somebody who owns a professional video camera, and the best shots are candid shots. They are shots where it doesn't look like you are actually posing for a picture. It looks like you're doing an activity, and they're just taking shots of you while you're doing whatever it was that you were doing. Candid shots look the best. They make you look the best. They look the most epic, and ideally you want to get them done by a professional photographer. An easy way to find a professional photographer is just put a post on Craigslist. There are photographers that will work for like 50 bucks. So you can put up a post right now on Craigslist, 100 bucks will get you a really good photographer. And just say, hey, looking for a professional photographer to do some headshots for me for my own personal social media. I have a budget of $50 or $100 or whatever it is. Please send me an example of your work. And then you're just going to get a whole bunch of people contacting you. Now, another good reason to do this is that also teaches you to be a bit of a leader and teaches you to take action. And a lot of people don't do that, so it's another thing that can make you more attractive. Just putting that post up and managing the ads can be really great for you. So, at this point, you can start posting questions. So if you've got questions, and we start writing them in, getting them in now, I'm going to take you through a sequence of steps of actual things that you can practice with purpose for each of these points. So once you get your question up, I want to make sure that, as you're posting it or whatever, keep track of what I'm saying and maybe make a note of this, because this is going to be your action plan. This is how you're going to get good. First step, model someone. So make a list of the celebrity or celebrities or special character that you like the style of, or that you like the way they interact, and then put their name at the top of the paper. So, I'm going to model myself after these people. And you can pick dating coaches. Like, I know a lot of people model themselves after me, which is funny because I model myself after Doctor Who and James Bond, but that's totally fine. So you can totally pick somebody who is like, you can pick Matt if you want, I don't know, you can pick whoever you want, but pick somebody who you think has really good success with women, and who you know women are attracted to, and that's who you're going to model yourself after. Once you've got that, make a list of like 10 to 30 of the most common scenarios that you find yourself in every single day. Common problems, common interactions you have to have, and maybe some that you'd like to be having, like the first time you kiss a girl, and then write down the person's name and what they would say and or what they would do in that given scenario. So you go through, you make that whole list, and then once you look at that list and you're like, okay, you know what, this is good, this is ethically sound, I like the way this person would respond, I think it's going to go very well, I've seen evidence that this stuff works, then you know that that's a step that you can do. And you can always tweak that as well. Like, it's a bit hard to talk about that in this seminar, but you can do something if it doesn't work. You can tweak it a bit based on how somebody similar to them would act. Anyway, so we move on. The next step, practice with purpose. Style. Look at how that person dresses when they are interviewed on places like Jimmy Kimmel or Conan O'Brien, and look at how they dress on the red carpet. Make a list of all of their clothes and styles, take some pictures, and then go to high-end fashion stores and get them to find similar outfits. Take pictures of yourselves in the high-end fashion store outlets. You could fashion store outfits. You could just keep those if you want to spend that kind of money, or you can just take the pictures to a lower-end store and get them to copy it. Do the same with hair and with your beard if you have a beard. After that, being curious. Make a point. Say, okay, you know what? On every Thursday, I'm going to go out to a new venue that I've never been to before, and I'm going to meet 10 people and find out one thing about them that I didn't know. And the one thing I'm going to find out is what their achievement is, the thing that they want to achieve in life more than anything. So whether that's travel the world, or whether it's set up their own company or make $1 million, whatever their goal is, go and learn and be curious. And that's going to make a huge difference in your life. And put time in a diary, like it's going to be Thursdays or 3 days a week or whatever it is. But don't just say 3 days a week. Say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at this time. Be very specific. Next up, watch and memorize comedy. Make a point. Say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go on Netflix. I'm going to find stand-up comedy. Or I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to type in 10 best stand-up comedy routines of all time. Or whatever it is that you're going to search. Look at them. Take notes. Write down the funniest situations. And then practice saying them. Again, practice with purpose. Write them down and then start off with your friends. Just say, oh my God, I saw this joke on YouTube the other day. I got to tell you guys it. And then practice delivering it. Say it to them. Practice it. Go out there and do it. And then you try doing it with strangers afterwards, which would be the next action step. Learn and talk about sex. Like straight after this video, just go and Google how to do the Yoni massage. Google how to give a woman a squirting orgasm. Google, and go on Wikipedia and learn about the parts of the female anatomy, specifically the pleasurous parts. Like, where can you pleasure somebody physically? Go and look and learn that stuff. And Wikipedia is best. Like, Wikipedia's got a ton of stuff on this. Go and check it out, learn about it, and then talk about it. So again, another action point. Okay, I am going to talk to a girl on Thursday that I've never met before about the things that I learned. Practice putting that step in. And again, if you're worried about like, how do I say it? Then of course, we've got our sexual escalation videos that we've broken down how to do this stuff in the past. And there's a bunch of programs that we have where you can learn that stuff as well if you want to. Practice with purpose. If you are struggling to come up with these kind of ideas, if there are things like maybe a book you've read that you've not put into practice, or maybe you've got an idea about it, but you're just not sure 100% of how to do it, then honestly, the best step I can give you for this is there's a link beneath this video. Click on it and let us help you. Like, you don't have to do this on your own. Like, if you're like, man, I don't know how to talk about sex, I don't know how to put that in the thing, or I really wish someone could help me work out who I should model. Like, because if you send me a picture of what you look like, I could be like, especially like a little bit of a paragraph about yourself, I can easily spot like famous celebrities or people online, or fictional characters. And I can be like, look, this is somebody who you should copy. We can do the same with style and what have you. And that's what the Interpersonal Attraction Institute is all about. So you'll see literally beneath this video, there's a link you can click on, and you can come and let us do this for you. You don't have to put the work in if you don't want to. Like, we can help you. We can help you create all these things and put them into practice. All you have to do is click on that link, and then you can come and join the Institute, and then you can come and work with us there, and you can gain access to all of the seminars where we teach people how to do these kind of things. And finally, taking good pictures. Again, take an actual practice with purpose step. Make a post on Craigslist. Start looking now for a professional photographer. Maybe you know somebody. Maybe you have a friend who's a professional photographer who can just do it as a favor to you. Whatever the situation is, though, again, set a date, book it. Make it an actionable thing that has a specific time so you know you can make it happen. So that's about it from me. Let's do 5 questions on the Q&A. How many questions do we have? We got a bunch?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go from the top. And let's take it from the first one.
All right, so Dennis Smith is asking, how can you talk about sex without sounding needy or creepy, especially if it's a girl? And he also wants to know when you guys are getting drinks.
When are we getting drinks?
Yeah, Dennis Smith.
Dennis Smith. Dennis, when are we getting drinks? Have we messaged about this? Have we spoken about this? I'm not sure 100% when we're getting drinks. The drinks are always good. Although not after last night. We had a lot of drinks last night. It was Jane's birthday. Okay, how can you talk about sex without being needy or creepy? I talk about sex with girls all the time, and it's never needy and it's never creepy. I was talking to a girl last night, literally a girl that was dressed up as a man, and we were talking about sex, and we were describing the differences between how men have sex and how women have sex, and how it's so beautiful to be able to experience both as a female, to enjoy the masculine power over you as when you're a female, but to also enjoy having that power over another female. So, we had this great talk about it, and it wasn't needy because I wasn't saying I want sex. That's where the problem comes. The problem, neediness comes down when you say you want something. Oh, I've always wanted to experience this. I really want to do this. If the word I or me or want is anywhere involved in that conversation, then you're not talking about sex. You're talking about trying to have sex. That's not the same. You need to be able to comfortable talking about the subject of sex without explaining what it is that you want or wish somebody would give you, or what you have had, or what you want to have. And as long as you can talk about sex in that way, then you're going to find it's never needy and it's never weird. Cool. Next question.
All right, Juby's asking, he has a voice that sounds like Yogi Bear and Rocky Balboa, and sometimes he tends to let it hold him back and from making himself attractive to women, because he gets made fun of. Okay,
so Juby's worried about his voice because he sounds like a cross between Yogi Bear and Rocky Balboa. By the way, Rocky, because Rocky's not attractive. Rocky gets girls. Like, this is one of those things, right? Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, they have the same kind of voice. Sylvester Stallone gets girls. You just gotta own it. Like, own the big, cuddly teddy bear thing, right? Juby, if you've got a voice that looks like that and you aren't physically a big, cuddly teddy bear, that's one of the first things I'd work on. Like, get big. Like, not putting on weight, get muscle. Get big. Fit your voice. And then have a big, booming voice and work with it. Like, have that kind of like, crazy kind of like Rocky type voice, but own it. Make sure it matches who you are. That's what I mean by modeling somebody. Like, style it, make it work for you, and then be that big, lovable character that everybody can enjoy. And that's one of the things, like, people are like, they're like, oh, people make fun of me because they say I sound like, I sound like Sylvester Stallone. Don't, just be like, yeah, I get that. I had a student once who sounded exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he was a short Asian guy. Like, true story. Like, You cannot make that stuff up. I spoke to him over the phone, and he's from Austria, and I was like, oh my God, you sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like, yeah, I know. And then he turns up, and he looks like an Asian guy. So for him, it's really easy. You know, he can't obviously look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he can work out, he can get big, and he can get butch, and he can just say to people, yeah, everyone calls me the Asian Arnold. Like, boom. That's going to work. People are going to relate to that. I mean, wow, okay, I get that. That's attractive. I've always wanted to have sex with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I've never been able to. So here I have an Asian Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to take it. Live up to the character. Enjoy the things that you can't change. Work with them and turn your greatest weakness into your greatest benefit and your biggest asset. Cool. Next question.
John Gage wants to know, what are the best places to touch in order to release the most oxytocin?
Okay, John Gage wants to know, what are the best places to touch in order to release the most oxytocin? Okay, so I have a whole section of this on body language. In fact, we just created an entire 10-hour-long program on body language that we released that breaks down a lot of these kind of things. I can summarize it for you very quickly, but honestly, if body language is the thing that you're interested in, if you want to learn how to really turn a girl on, then you definitely, out of everybody, you should be one of the people that clicks on that link beneath this video. Because by clicking on that link, you'll gain access to a lot of our older videos, but you'll also gain access to all the new ones that are coming out. And you'll be able to talk and ask questions about body language and have some very detailed instructors give you dedicated feedback. To summarize though, oxytocin is released anytime someone trusts you, and touch triggers trust. So touch and trust are important in areas where it could be dangerous to be touched there. And they're the areas that feel the best. So for example, if you slit someone's wrist, they die. So the wrist is a nice area. And you can do it. You can just stroke your own wrist. And you're like, oh my God, that feels really tingly. And that's why it's a good feeling. And so that's, Matt's doing it here, right? But you feel it, right? It's like, oh, that's really nice. And it's because that could kill you. So anywhere where you could die is usually a good area or an erogenous zone on a female. So things like the throat, the wrist, the inside of the thigh, those kind of things. Cool.
Yeah, I like this one because it kind of teaches men what not to do. Is there a protocol for talking to sex with women? For example, is it a good idea to talk about sex when you first meet someone at a Starbucks having coffee?
Is it a good idea? Is there a protocol for when you can talk to a woman about sex? Okay. I'm going to give you my quick tip to talking about sex as fast as possible. I always do this. I'm like, hey, why do people always talk about the same boring things when they first meet? That's question A. And then if they're like, I don't know, I'm like, do you ever find that gets boring? If they say yes, this is cool, right? Because it means if a conversation is going boring, you can use this to get out of it as well, which is great. And you say, okay. And then in that case, I've got a question for you. Are you comfortable talking about uncomfortable things? So you're gaining permission to say it. So if she's like, yeah, I am. And you go, okay, well in that case, why do people never talk about sex when they first meet? When we all know that most people, that's one of the main driving factors behind what they do. Now, we're not saying because we all know they want sex, because some people are like, well, I don't want sex right now, I'm working. But if we say it's one of the driving factors behind we do what we do, that's very different, because one of the main reasons most people on this planet exist is to procreate and have children and move on. So unless you're dealing with one of the few women on the planet that don't want to have kids, which do exist, there's a good chance that she's going to respond, yeah, I know, right? That is a thing. And then you're talking about sex in a very easy way, and you could do that within 3 minutes of meeting somebody at Starbucks, and it wouldn't be weird because they told you it was okay to talk about it. Cool, let's do 2 more questions.
Okay, well then, do pictures with girls on social media help?
Do pictures with girls on social media help? Yes and no. They don't help on dating sites. So if you're going to put a picture of you up on Tinder with 2 girls, that isn't going to help. Not as a prime picture. If you have it as a secondary picture, it's okay, but never just you and a girl. It needs to be ambiguous about who you are and aren't dating. But in general on social media it does, because it just shows that you have female friends and that gives you pre-selection. Cool, final question.
Cool. They want to know, how do they find their model person? Their absolute idol that they...
How do you find your model person? The easiest way to do it is to ask your friends what celebrity you most remind them of, or what character from a movie or a book you most remind them of. And you can remember, even if somebody comes back to you and says, what's his name, Seth? Rogen, yeah. Even if someone says Seth Rogen, you can be like, oh my God, that's terrible. How can Seth Rogen get girls? Seth Rogen is super attractive. One of my girlfriends, Brooke, loves Seth Rogen. She would do almost anything, I think, to sleep with that guy. You know what I mean? So there are, you'd be surprised. If somebody's famous, there's usually a lot of women that wish they were after that person. And you just got to maximize what it is to be like that. I have a very good friend of mine in the UK. His name's Andy, and he's almost a spitting image for, what's his name? Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead. And he's actually better looking, significantly better looking. but still very similar styling, but sounds like him and acts like him. And the more he acts like him, the more women just melt and they're all over him. But he doesn't own it enough. He needs to own it a bit more and sort of like, you know, really push that boundary and focus on talking about sex as well, because he shies away from this subject. And if he did, he would be like super attractive. He'd be getting girls all the time just because he acts like that. So don't be shocked if like the people that come back, like the names that come back, the celebrities, you're like, oh, that person's not the most attractive person, because you can really rock it. Like you can really make it work. So you just need to be a bit open to it and just asking your friends what to do, or ask us. Like I said, you know, like I honestly think like it costs literally nothing to learn more about the Institute. All you have to do is click on the link and it'll give you access to talk to Jane. Actually, it's one of my girlfriends. You have to talk to her over the phone. And she's the one that handles all of her applications. So everybody watching this, if there's a question you didn't get answered, if you're like, man, I really wish I had more help with this, or, you know, this is clear, I understand, but I'm just not motivated enough to do it, or I don't know if I can make it happen. The Institute is not expensive at all. It's like less than $50 a week, I think, to gain access to it. And that's where you're going to have actual personalized private responses. You ask a question, somebody's going to give you an answer. It's like a no-brainer. How many people are watching this right now?
9.
Yeah, okay. So 90? Yeah, okay. So there's like a hell of a lot of you guys that are sitting there watching this right now. So we couldn't let all of you into the Institute. So it would be first come, first served. I know that at the moment there's probably about 8 spots left. And then like once we hit max, we just don't let more people come on because otherwise it just gets too crooked. So you can't all get in, but you know, first come, first served. I know that some spots opened up, you know, come up to Christmas, we had a few people that sort of like, hey, you know what, I've kind of like got all the results that I want and I just want to have a quiet Christmas with my girlfriend or whatever it is. So, you know, they kind of move away. And this happens. So one of the interesting things about our job is as people get results, they stop training with us because they've got results, they don't need to anymore. So we're always getting new spots opening up. But obviously coming up to the Christmas period, there's only so many that we've got available right now. So if you've got questions that you want answered, if you want help with like coming up with how to model somebody, or if you want help with how to bring up sex and how to make that a very easy thing to talk about. One of the very first videos you get, there's like a seminar that you get right at the beginning, which is how to talk about sex and then how to handle the logistics of the lay, which is like how to organize all of the steps you need to do to actually get laid. And you know, you could gain access to that within just a couple of days if you get access to the program, if you get past the application thing. So if you want to learn more about the program, if you want to find out ways that you can put all this stuff into practice and you want to get it for less than $50 a week, then all you have to do is click on the link underneath this video. You'll get to talk to Jane, you'll get to learn all about it, and hopefully I will see you within the Institute. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. Do yourself a favor, make sure you don't miss out next time so you can see all the awesome things that we're going to be teaching next week. And thank you very much.